Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Phyllis and Cricket argue with Danny at Crimson Lights. Welcome to the Young and the Restless Daily YPP for a brief, you're almost halfway through. Recap of the most incredible, or what the hell did we just watch, moments from today's episode. Now, let's get started. The Young and the Restless events. On The Young and the Restless, Michelle Stafford portrays Phyllis. Photo courtesy of CBS. Even after Phyllis and Sharon have reconciled, she still harbors resentment at Cricket. Watching Cricket and Phyllis spar on The Young and the Restless is always entertaining. When Phyllis and Cricket were trading barbs at Crimson Lights, who needs a calorie-dense pastry? Phyllis interrupted Danny and Cricket as they were finalizing the details of their wedding next month, pointing out that she hadn't received her invitation yet. Her feelings for Cricket are at the top of the list of things that Phyllis will never be able to let go of. Does she still love Danny, or is her relationship with him permanently impacted by the fact that Cricket defeated her in court and Phyllis lost custody of Daniel when he was only a toddler? The latter is what we suspect. We believe that Phyllis won't be letting go of Cricket anytime soon. The couple's big day is coming up. Will the redhead try to ruin it? Do you want further information? We've got you. The greatest comprehensive YNR recaps may be found online at Soap Central. You may even read all of them from more than 30 years ago. We also provide daily spoilers if you are unable to wait for the next episode. And the greatest part is that we want to know if you agree or disagree. Whatever you do this weekend, please remember to read the 2 scoops for some chuckles in the closest thing we can get to a watching party without actually having a program. Leave a remark below as usual. Let Me Into Your Heart is what Michael Damian, star of The Young and the Restless, desires. The various Danny concerts that were held in Genoa City are remembered by seasoned Young and the Restless fans. Michael Damian, who plays Danny, will now return to the performance to perform a brand new song called Let Me Into Your Heart. Rock on, young people and restless ones. On The Young and the Restless, Danny and Christine. In a statement, Damian says, "I can't wait to share Let Me Into Your Heart with everyone. It's a song about love, hope, and connection, and it's made even more meaningful by the cast performing it on The Young and the Restless." Let Me Into Your Heart was written and produced by Larry and Tom Weir, who have won Grammy Awards. The song is the lead single from Damian's much-anticipated next album. Keep an eye out for Damian's performance of the song during Monday, October 20th's YNR program. The performance connects to a unique plot point where Danny performs a moving musical number on stage alongside the actors of the show. Second chances. Phyllis, played by Michelle Stafford on The Young and the Restless. Danny went back to Genoa City last year and made contact with his ex-wife, Laura Lee Bell's character Christine Williams. Now that Chris and her ex-boyfriend Paul Williams have broken up for real, the two have taken action to resume their romance. As they reconnected, Danny and Christine took a trip to Los Angeles. Christine gladly accepted Danny's marriage proposal in July at Society, a neighborhood eatery in Genoa City. Chris's wedding gown choice has allowed viewers to participate in the celebrations. In addition to helping friends Lauren and Michael get back together, Danny and Christine recently invited them to attend the wedding. Lauren was requested to be her maid of honor by Chris. Michael consented to serve as the services minister. The happy pair hopes that the celebrations won't be ruined by a member of their past. Daniel has been instructed by Chris to ensure that his mother, Phyllis, Danny's ex-wife and the person who ended Danny and Chris's previous marriage, doesn't interfere with the November ceremony. Apple Music and other major music services currently offer Let Me Into Your Heart for purchase. Crimson Lights may have strong coffee, but the simmering animosity between Christine Cricket Blair and Phyllis Summers could have boiled an espresso machine. Longtime viewers of The Young and the Restless were treated to a delectably nostalgic emotionally charged confrontation between two of Genoa City's most lasting rivals in the October episode. These adversaries are women whose lives, loves, and legacies have been entwined for more than 30 years. A plot that feels both ancient and achingly current was rekindled by their most recent argument over Danny, the rock star whose music used to fill concert halls and whose heart turned into a battlefield for passion and suffering. This was not your typical soap opera conflict. Rather, it was a collision between human pride, pain, and history. There is a tale of treachery, atonement, and unhealed scars beneath the clever jabs, raised eyebrows, and seething hatred. One must comprehend not only what was spoken in that cafe, but also what has been kept silent for years in order to fully comprehend the significance of what transpired between Phyllis and Cricket. A scene rich with history. Phyllis Summers wasn't there for coffee when she entered Crimson Lights. She may have been there for pandemonium, but she was there for clarity. Longtime YNR fans can instantly identify the intensity that was already crackling in the air, the quiet before the dramatic storm. Cricket was seated across the cafe from Danny, who had once loved them both and who, in a manner, still keeps them connected by all of the unresolved feelings they have carried about since the early 1990s. For someone who was once in that similar emotional place, Phyllis witnessed Danny and Christine completing the plans of their impending wedding. It was the kind of straightforward, endearing, and happy discourse that resonates deeply. It wasn't just a trivial comment when Phyllis interjected to say she hadn't received her invitation yet. It had a burden. There was pain behind the sarcasm. Once scheming, seducing, and sabotaging her way into Danny's life, the redhead was now an outsider looking in as her ex-boyfriend rekindled his love for the woman she had so frantically attempted to remove from his heart. The writer's use of tension and comedy to reverberate decades of emotional history is what makes this moment so brilliant. Phyllis's joke about being left off the guest list was about more than simply a misplaced envelope. It was about regret, exclusion, and the nagging pain of knowing that some scars never really go away. Summers, Phyllis, the everlasting outsider. Phyllis exemplifies resilience and self-sabotage more than most characters on daytime television. Michelle Stafford's portrayal of Phyllis, a woman who desires love yet destroys it, who seeks acceptance but alienates everyone around her, is the epitome of paradox. All those discrepancies were revealed in this scene from Crimson Lights. She wasn't only making fun of Danny's love for Cricket. The custody dispute that altered Phyllis's life is the source of her deep-seated resentment. Cricket was among several who saw through her facade when she lost custody of her son Daniel years ago, primarily as a result of her own deceit and manipulation. Phyllis was indelibly branded by that humiliation. The shadow of that defeat hangs over every interaction with Cricket ever since, a silent reminder that Phyllis has been her own worst enemy despite her brains and charm. Fans could thus see the layers beneath her sneer when she leaned across the bar and made fun of the happy pair. Really, it wasn't hate. It was bravado, cloaked in sadness. Phyllis was observing life go on without her. It was the heartbreaking realization that she will always be remembered as the person who destroyed her own opportunity at happiness, regardless of how many times she attempts to change who she is. Christine Cricket Blair, under attack for her grace. Cricket is ice, perfectly poised, controlled, and principled, if Phyllis is fire. Cricket, played with quiet strength by Laura Lee Bell, has long served as the younger generation of Genoa City's moral compass. She has evolved from the idealistic legal student who battled for justice to a lady characterized by forgiveness and patience, traits that frequently conflict with Phyllis's impetuous personality. We witnessed Cricket's greatest and most vulnerable moments in this episode. Her happiness at marrying Danny was sincere, but it was clear that she felt uncomfortable with Phyllis's interference. Despite her calm demeanor, Cricket is aware that when Phyllis is involved, history tends to repeat itself. She is aware of how quickly calm may degenerate into conflict, since she has experienced Phyllis's obsession, lies, and manipulations. Cricket's ability to win without fighting is what makes her such an intriguing contrast to Phyllis. She outperforms her competitors by being dignified and refusing to compromise. Phyllis is enraged by that self-control because she is a reactionary by nature. Therefore, Cricket's cool dismissal of Phyllis's snarky remark on the wedding invitation was more than just a slight. It was a declaration of authority. Cricket was saying, "You can't touch me anymore," without using words. However, even the most resilient facade has weaknesses. Cricket's demeanor wavered when Phyllis brought up Danny, suggesting that she still harbors concerns. What happens if Phyllis doesn't finish? What if love, particularly love that once blazed so brightly, is impervious to total extinction? The man in the middle, Danny. Few characters have handled the turbulent waters of romance in Genoa City with as much grudging grace as Danny. Danny, the show's gentle troubadour, was once the rock star heartthrob of the 1980s and early 1990s. He now symbolizes nostalgia, artistic expression, and emotional recovery. One of Y&R's most recognizable triangles has been rekindled by his return to the program, and his composed manner frequently belies the emotional burden he bears. Danny's response to the altercation between the two people who influenced his life in this specific episode was instructive. He was clearly uncomfortable, and his attempts to defuse the situation came across as almost fatherly. Beneath the courteous grins and gentle assurances, however, lies a man divided between the past and the present. Danny has always been a kind, sympathetic, and maybe too forgiving man for his own good. There is no doubt that he now loves Christine. But memories are not erased by love. Something human and unresolved is stirred when one sees Phyllis again, hears her voice, and sees her suffering. When Phyllis made her scathing comment, the audience could see the shame in his eyes. She feels guilty for ever making her feel disposable, not for moving on. Danny will always have a piece of Phyllis's broken heart inside of him, even if he picked Cricket. And maybe that's why this plot still has such a strong hold on people decades later. Who won? The man is irrelevant. It's about how every relationship leaves a scar and how love endures even after it ends. Crimson Lights, the battleground of emotions. Authors of soap operas are aware that location is just as important as speech. It was no coincidence that Sharon's famous coffee shop, Crimson Lights, was chosen to host this altercation. Innumerable reconciliations, betrayals, and admissions have taken place in this area. Intimate enough to let emotional daggers fly unrestrained, but public enough to avoid physical altercations. It's a safe place. It feels like Phyllis is staring through the window of normalcy that she can never quite reach as she stands in that cafe and takes in the cheerful conversation, the aroma of coffee beans and the clinking of mugs. She is surrounded by warmth, but always feels chilly. She is surrounded by community, but always alone. The symbolism is profound. Cricket, on the other hand, represents that normalcy, a way of life based on stability and forgiving. Even a light-hearted discussion about wedding planning becomes a clash of worlds because of that disparity. The scene really comes to life in the little motions. Phyllis's voice, flowing with honey that hides anger, and the way she leans slightly forward. Cricket refuses to interact beyond what is required by etiquette, sitting erect with all of his muscles tight. Danny's hand flickered as though to step in, but he stopped himself. It's a masterwork of subdued tension, demonstrating that sometimes the most subdued moments evoke the most intense feelings. Is Phyllis's true motivation ego or love? Is Phyllis merely troubled by her past? Or is she still in love with Danny? Fans are divided on that issue, and maybe even Phyllis is. Both are implied by her actions. On the one hand, she hates Christine for representing everything Phyllis cannot be, morally pure, steadfast, and unwavering, rather than for taking Danny's heart. However, it appears that she is genuinely unable to release the emotional grip that Danny used to have on her. Phyllis's love has always been compulsive and based more on dominance than cooperation. She fell for Danny because he offered her a way out of the manipulative seductress the world saw and an opportunity to reinvent herself. However, she destroyed what she most desired when her doubts took over. Seeing Danny and Cricket get ready for their wedding years later reopens that old ache. She doesn't want Danny to return. She simply cannot accept that there is happiness in a place where she has been obliterated. The maternal layer is another factor to take into account. Phyllis's romantic struggles, cycles of love, betrayal, and redemption, have always been reflected in her relationship with Daniel. It must hurt more to hear that Daniel has been instructed to make sure she doesn't wreck the wedding than any insult Cricket could say. Losing a girlfriend is one thing, but being judged unreliable by your own child is quite another. Her impulse to act out in order to regain her relevance is fueled by that humiliation. Phyllis rarely lashes out for retribution. Instead, she does so to remind herself that she is still important. Christine's challenge: never forget but forgive. For Christine, Danny's proposal is a sign of validation rather than romance. She suffered grief, betrayal, and the dissolution of her marriage to Paul while waiting decades for this second opportunity. Danny's comeback represents the benefits of having faith and the notion that love can resurface when the moment is appropriate. But that dream is overshadowed by Phyllis's shadow. In this plot, Christine is compelled to face her own unresolved animosity as well as Phyllis's possible meddling. Her ability to forgive is both a strength and a burden. She sees the woman who deceived her husband, ruined trust, and almost put her career on hold every time she looks at Phyllis. But she also sees a lady making an effort to change, however poorly. Their interactions have texture because of that tension. Despite her desire to believe in atonement, Christine is too familiar with Phyllis's pattern to be completely at ease. And that's what makes Y&R's writing so brilliant in this arc. It doesn't simplify. They're simply imperfect people who make decisions, deal with the fallout, and keep going around in circles of pride and forgiveness. They're neither unredeemable heroes nor unredeemable villains. Danny's comeback and the redemptive music. Another plot point that runs parallel to this emotional tempest is Michael Damian's new song, Let Me Into Your Heart. Danny's comeback performance, decades after his initial rock star days, is more than just a musical interlude. It's a metaphor for reconnection. After years of suffering, the song's lyrics talk about love, optimism, and having the guts to open up again. For a man torn between two women who represent his past and his future, it's a fitting anthem. The choice to incorporate Damian's actual music into the program makes it difficult to distinguish between fact and fantasy. A kinder, wiser Danny, a man who uses music to heal rather than seduce, is now available to fans who recall his 1980s performances at the GC Club or outdoor concerts. In addition to serenading Christine, he is symbolically pleading with the audience and other ladies to allow him back in when he sings, Let Me Into Your Heart. The October 20th program will feature the impending on-screen performance, which is expected to be more than just a showcase. For Danny, Christine, and even Phyllis, who will undoubtedly observe from the sidelines, caught between awe and grief, it's a moment of collective catharsis. Genoa City's ghosts, love and war cycles, because they depict actual human behavior magnified via drama. Soap operas continue to be popular. The plot of Phyllis, Cricket, and Danny is more about repetition than rivalry. It explores how people keep going back to the same emotional patterns until they finally learn the lesson they've been avoiding for a long time. Phyllis is obsessed with controlling the story of her life. Christine has an unwavering faith in the goodness of people. Danny is constantly attempting to ease the suffering of others. They collectively constitute a trio of unresolved issues that shape not only their characters, but also the young and the restless generational pulse. And that is what makes it so beautiful. These seasoned characters maintain the show's emotional framework even while younger characters take center stage. Decades of significance are contained in every look, word, and pause they make. Phyllis's sneer reminds us of her previous transgressions. We remember Christine's lost purity when she sighs. We hear memories of a period when love songs and soap opera plots were one and the same when Danny strums his guitar. Will the wedding be ruined by Phyllis? Fans are speculating as to whether Phyllis will for this wedding to take place amicably, or will she undermine it, giving in to her darkest instincts? Both possibilities are hinted at in the literature. Although Phyllis may be prone to trouble due to her pride, her latest arcs have placed a strong emphasis on introspection. Maybe she's ready to turn a corner since she's gone through so much. Phony deaths, betrayals, and strained family ties. But it's difficult to avoid the appeal of pandemonium. Witnessing Christine and Danny's happiness could rekindle that old jealousy. Phyllis's ability to resist being the version of herself that everyone expects her to be is more important than whether or not she will act. Perhaps restraint, rather than retaliation, will be her greatest triumph. The most effective thing Phyllis could do if she genuinely wants to be saved is to go to the wedding, smile sincere, and leave with her dignity unharmed. A moment of progress more startling than any explosion would be the ultimate twist. Legacy and durability, the reasons this tale is still effective. Emotional sincerity, not just nostalgia, is what keeps this plotline relevant in 2025. Because it encapsulates universal truths about identity and love. The rivalry between Phyllis and Cricket endures beyond time. At some point, we've all been the lady attempting to hang on or the one attempting to go on. Their fight for closure is a universal human struggle. Laura Lee Bell and Michelle Stafford also contribute decades of history and chemistry to their moments. Every sigh and look seems genuine rather than staged. They're characters who are older and wiser, yet always susceptible to the same old wounds, have changed along with the audience. The ideal setting for this emotional investigation is the Danny Cricket wedding. In soap operas, weddings are never just about vows. They're also about conflicts, admissions, and the ghosts that can't be put to rest. The plot promises heartfelt fireworks, worthy of Y&R's heritage, regardless of whether Phyllis makes a spectacle or quietly breaks down. The timeless song, Let Me Into Your Heart. This entire arc's emotional thesis is Michael Damian's new song, not just a publicity tie-in. The journey of these characters is reflected in the lyrics, which are about love, hope, and connection. The show's invitation to viewers is also represented by Danny's request to be allowed back into Christine's heart. Invite us in. Let us remind you of the continued relevance of these stories. Authenticity is increased by the fact that Damian co-wrote the song with Grammy-winning producers Larry and Tom Weir. It connects the past and present by fusing genuine musical skill with soap opera passion. More than just fan service, the much-anticipated performance on October 20th is art mimicking life, a sincere nod to devoted viewers who have followed these characters from their early passion to their adult reunion. In summary, the past is never truly behind us. The notion that love never really dies, it only changes forms, was encapsulated in the scene where Phyllis stood in crimson lights, watching Danny and Christine plot their future. Phyllis's smile, Christine's poise, and Danny's hesitancy all spoke to decades of desire, remorse, and rejuvenation. Who Gets the Man wasn't the focus of this episode. It dealt on how people bear the consequences of their decisions. It was about growing, forgiving, and perhaps letting go at last. There are still stories to be told about Genoa City's most complex triangle. Regardless of whether Phyllis ever finds peace, Christine and Danny get married, or there is another surprise in store. Fans everywhere will be reminded of the reason they return to this world. Not for perfection, but for connection, as Michael Damian's voice soon fills the airways with Let Me Into Your Heart. Because in Genoa City, one truth endures over decades of treachery, heartache, and atonement. The heart never forgets.